It was a long highway, stretching endlessly under the burning afternoon sun. The road looked quiet, almost empty, as if the world itself had slowed down. In the middle of this lonely journey, a black luxury car moved smoothly, cutting through the silence. Inside the car sat Arav Mehta, a rich and successful businessman from New York, who was traveling for an important business deal. His life was always full of meetings, flights, contracts, and deadlines. Emotions, feelings, and personal connections had slowly faded into the background. Arav leaned back in his seat, checking emails on his phone, while his driver focused on the road. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the calm. The car jerked slightly and began to slow down. The driver quickly pulled over to the side of the highway. "Sir, the tire is flat," the driver said, stepping out to check. Arav sighed, rubbing his forehead. Time was precious to him. Every minute mattered. He looked around and realized they were in the middle of nowhere, with no big town or service station in sight. Just endless road, dry land, and a few scattered trees. The driver tried calling for roadside assistance, but the network was weak. After several failed attempts, he shook his head. "It might take hours, sir." Arav stepped out of the car, feeling the hot wind on his face. Not far away, he noticed a small, simple roadside dhaba, standing alone like a tiny island in a sea of emptiness. A few wooden tables, some plastic chairs, and a small kitchen area with smoke rising gently into the sky. It looked ordinary, yet strangely inviting. "We'll wait there," Arav said, pointing toward it. As they walked closer, the smell of fresh food filled the air. The soft sound of utensils clinking and a gentle humming voice reached his ears. Arav stepped inside and saw a young woman working behind the counter. She looked around 24 or 25, wearing a simple salwar suit, her hair tied neatly, her face calm and focused. She looked up and met his eyes. For a brief second, the world seemed to pause. "Welcome," she said politely, her voice soft and warm. "Please have a seat." Arav nodded, slightly surprised by the sudden comfort he felt in this unfamiliar place. He sat down at a table near the window. The dhaba was clean, simple, and peaceful. There were a few truck drivers eating quietly, and an elderly couple sipping tea in the corner. "My name is Ria," the girl said as she handed him a menu. "I run this place." "You run this alone?" Arav asked, genuinely impressed. She smiled lightly. "Yes, it was my father's dream. After he passed away, I continued it." Arav looked at her carefully. There was strength in her eyes mixed with kindness and calmness. He ordered some tea and food, expecting nothing special. But when the food arrived, he was surprised. The flavors were rich, warm, and comforting, reminding him of a time when life was simple and full of love. "This is really good," he said honestly. "Thank you," Ria replied, her smile growing brighter. As time passed, they started talking. Simple conversations at first, about the road, the weather, the slow business of the day. Slowly the topics deepened. Ria spoke about her struggles, running the dhaba, managing expenses, and supporting her younger brother's education. Arav listened quietly, something he rarely did. In his world, people usually spoke to impress or gain something. But Ria spoke with honesty, without expectations. When she asked about him, Arav hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "I run a big company in New York. My life is always busy. I hardly get time to breathe." "Does it make you happy?" she asked gently. The question hit him unexpectedly. He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. For the first time, he truly thought about it. Was he happy? Or was he just running in a race without knowing the destination? Before he could respond, the driver walked in. "Sir, the mechanic is on the way. It may take another hour." Arav nodded, but strangely, he didn't feel irritated. Instead, he felt calm. The silence, the simplicity, and Ria's presence had created a peaceful bubble around him. As the sun slowly began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Arav sat there, sipping tea, unaware that this unexpected stop was quietly changing something deep inside his heart. This journey, which had started as just another business trip, was slowly turning into something far more meaningful. The evening breeze grew cooler as the sun slowly dipped below the horizon. Soft golden light filled the small dhaba, creating a warm and peaceful atmosphere. Arav looked outside through the window, watching the colors of the sky change. For the first time in years, he felt no rush, no pressure, and no urgency to move ahead. Ria brought him another cup of tea. "You look tired," she said gently. "Long journeys can drain you." He smiled faintly. "It's not just the journey. It's the life I live." She sat across from him, keeping a respectful distance. "Then maybe this pause is a gift," she said softly. "Sometimes life forces us to stop so we can breathe." Her words stayed with him. He had traveled across countries, lived in luxury hotels, eaten at the best restaurants, and yet he had never felt this calm. This simple place, this quiet road, and this unknown girl were giving him something he didn't even realize he needed. They started talking again. Ria shared stories about her childhood, how her father had built this dhaba with his own hands, and how she used to help him after school. She spoke about the early mornings, the long days, and the tired nights, but also about the satisfaction she felt when customers left with a smile. Arav listened carefully, completely absorbed. "I used to dream of becoming a teacher," she said, stirring her tea, "but life had different plans." "Do you regret it?" Arav asked. She shook her head. "No, this place keeps my father alive in my memories, and it gives me a purpose." Her strength impressed him deeply. In contrast, his life suddenly felt empty. He had success, money, and power, but very little purpose. The mechanic finally arrived and started fixing the car. The driver signaled that it would take another 30 minutes. Arav felt strangely disappointed. He wasn't ready to leave. As darkness slowly covered the sky, small lights lit up inside the dhaba. The soft glow made the place feel warm and welcoming. A few more travelers stopped by, filling the air with quiet chatter and the smell of fresh food. Arav stood up and walked toward the counter. "Can I help you with anything?" he asked. Ria looked surprised. "You? Help?" He smiled. "Why not? I could use a break from being served all the time." She hesitated for a moment, then handed him a tray of glasses. "All right, just serve water to the customers." As he walked around offering water, he noticed the simple happiness on people's faces. Small moments, small gestures, yet so meaningful. It reminded him of a version of himself he had lost long ago. When he returned, Ria was watching him with a soft smile. "You're not bad at this. Maybe I chose the wrong career," he joked. They both laughed, and in that laughter, a quiet connection formed. Soon the mechanic announced that the car was ready. The driver brought the keys, signaling it was time to leave. Arav felt a heaviness in his chest. This stop, meant to be a delay, had become the highlight of his journey. He walked toward Ria, hesitating slightly. "Thank you," he said, "for the food, the tea, and the conversation." She nodded. "Safe travels." For a moment, neither of them moved. There was something unspoken hanging in the air. "I might pass through this road again," Arav said. "Would you still be here?" Ria smiled gently. "This is my home. You'll always find me here." Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, something deeper began to take shape. Arav stepped into his car, but his mind stayed behind. As the vehicle slowly moved forward, he looked back through the window. Ria stood there, waving softly, her figure growing smaller with every passing second. The road stretched ahead once more, but this time it felt different. His heart felt heavier, yet strangely lighter. That night in his hotel room, Arav couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to the small dhaba, the quiet road, and Ria's gentle voice. He tried to distract himself with work, but the numbers and documents blurred together. For the first time, success felt meaningless. Days passed, yet her memory refused to fade. In meetings, during flights, and even at crowded events, his thoughts drifted back to that simple place. The warmth, the calm, and the unexpected connection kept pulling him back. Finally, one evening, he made a decision. He booked a flight and planned a trip that had nothing to do with business. This time, his journey had a different purpose. The road looked familiar, yet everything felt new. Arav sat quietly in the back seat, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The same long highway, the same endless stretch of land. But his heart was beating differently this time. He wasn't thinking about meetings, deals, or deadlines. He was thinking about one small dhaba and one gentle smile that had stayed with him every single day. When the car finally slowed down and stopped near the dhaba, Arav's heart skipped a beat. He stepped out and looked around. There it was, standing just the same as before. The soft smoke rising from the kitchen, the wooden tables, and the peaceful silence of the place. And there she was. Ria stood behind the counter, arranging cups. When she looked up and saw him, surprise filled her eyes. For a moment she just stared, as if trying to believe what she was seeing. "You came back," she said softly. Arav nodded. "I told you I might." A small smile appeared on her lips, warm and genuine. "I'm glad you did." They sat together again, just like before. But this time, the silence between them felt deeper, more meaningful. Arav told her about the sleepless nights, the restless thoughts, and the strange emptiness he had been feeling. "I kept thinking about this place," he admitted. "About you. I didn't understand why." Ria listened carefully, her eyes calm and thoughtful. "Sometimes we don't need to understand everything," she said. "We just need to feel." Their conversations grew longer and more personal. Arav started visiting often, finding excuses to travel that road again and again. With every visit, their bond became stronger. They shared stories, laughter, worries, and dreams. Slowly, the distance between two strangers turned into closeness, and that closeness turned into something beautiful. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Arav finally spoke what had been in his heart. "I don't know where life is taking me," he said, "but I know I don't want to walk that path without you." Ria looked down, her fingers gently twisting the edge of her dupatta. "Our worlds are very different," she said softly. "You live in a big city. I belong to this small place." "I can change my world," Arav replied, "but I don't want to change you." She looked at him, searching his face for truth, and found only honesty. Life, however, had its own challenges waiting. When Arav's family learned about Ria, they were shocked. They couldn't accept that a successful businessman could fall in love with a simple dhaba owner. They tried to convince him, then pressured him, and finally warned him about reputation, society, and status. For the first time, Arav stood firm. "I built my success," he said calmly, "but I didn't build my happiness. Ria did." The tension between him and his family grew, but his heart remained steady. He knew what he wanted, and he was ready to fight for it. Meanwhile, Ria faced her own struggles. The fear of leaving her comfort zone, the responsibility of her brother, and the uncertainty of a new life all weighed heavily on her. Some nights she lay awake, wondering if love alone was enough. One day, Arav surprised her. He didn't bring promises. He brought actions. He helped expand the dhaba into a small, clean cafe without changing its soul. He arranged better education for her brother and supported her dreams of becoming a teacher by enrolling her in online courses. "This is your life," he said. "I just want to walk beside you, not ahead of you." Tears filled Ria's eyes. In that moment, her doubts began to fade. Slowly, both their families saw the sincerity of their love. What started as resistance turned into understanding. What began as fear turned into acceptance. Months later, on a quiet morning, under an open sky, Surrounded by close friends and family, Arav and Ria stood together, hand in hand. The rich businessman and the simple Dhaba owner were no longer from different worlds. They were from the same heart. Their journey wasn't perfect, but it was real. It taught them that sometimes a small delay, a broken tire, and an unexpected stop can lead to the most beautiful destination. And as they looked ahead, toward a life filled with shared dreams and simple joys, they knew that their love would continue to grow, one step at a time.